From We Are Spectacular, this is a Spectacular Marketing Podcast. A podcast about everything brand, marketing, digital and social for the food and drink industry and beyond. So today you join me as I'm actually working from home. It's been a great chance to catch up with lots of emails, admin, things I've been putting off, and also things like even getting some washing done, which will make me look very good indeed. So as I'm at home, actually I'm finding it's second nature now that you're using things like AI as part of everyday life. So artificial intelligence like the Amazon Echo, where it's on all the time, always listening, and it's so easy when you're working from home that you can just tell it to start playing music, stop playing music, turn it up, turn it down. When a call comes in, you can instantly pay your attention to that. And it is quite incredible how this has just crept up on all of us. And so many things are going to be voice oriented, especially in the food and drink industry as you go forward. So this week I had the great pleasure of actually catching up with a real digital future mind, and his name is Vivion Cox. Now Vivion used to work at an agency called Klood, who we partnered with many times to great success. And he really is one of the leading lights in the UK as a digital business and social strategist. Vivion has also started a new company called Sport Whispers, and he's been so clever where he trolls the internet for rumours that are happening in all kinds of sports, and then he can legitimise it, actually create content within seconds, minutes, to then deliver up to audiences that are consuming it from all the major media players as well. So I'm really interested how we can apply that to our industry for food and drink and beyond. I hope you enjoy what Vivion has to say. An hour really wasn't enough, but hopefully we'll see him again, maybe in a few months' time. Enjoy. So it gives me great pleasure to welcome Vivion Cox to what's becoming today the kitchen series of We Are Spectacular podcasts. I really mucked up on booking the room, so we're in a tiny kitchen in Mayfair that someone's very kindly lent us. But yeah, it's very homely and quite interesting. Lots of bottles of wine that are just begging to be drunk round about us, but maybe not just yet. So, Viv, you travelled from Milton Keynes today?
I was initially from Milton Keynes, but travelled across from our Old Street office today as well. So we have a small part of the company down just in Old Street, just off the Silicon Roundabout, as it's now become known.
Yes, yeah. Well, one day it will be Milton Keynes, the city of dreams.
Yes.
We'll make that happen. I've got the T-shirt. I've actually got a T-shirt that says that. But
it's definitely the city of our dreams. Yes.
But I think just in terms of you and me and our history, goes back a little bit, and it was just a real chance meeting. So it was one day I was in with Peach Pubs, who we both know and love very well, and Hamish and Lee and the guys. And this white Audi TT roared up to come in to pitch to us, and you were with Olivia, one of your colleagues at the time. Yeah. And I was just blown away in terms of your knowledge on digital and social and how your mind worked. And, I was almost like, can we just get this meeting to be over so I can get you a business card and meet you, as soon as I could. And then since then, we did some great things together, right? So worked a bit on Nestle. Yeah. And you advised us on social media, all the way through. We Are Spectacular and Spectacular Marketing. So, yeah, just super grateful for all that help and knowledge and all these things. So, yeah, we had a lot of fun times. So just before we go into, some of the questions and what I really want to talk to you about, it's just dead interesting. We had a little riff there on life coaching. Yeah. And I think, just what you were saying was phenomenal. So you were comparing them to like live preachers.
Yeah, no, I suppose I don't want to do anybody a disservice, but it's not. I wouldn't say it's one of my soapbox subjects, but one of these subjects that I've looked at from afar and really struggled to get my head round. Where you've got these these guys that people are prepared to pay thousands of pounds to stand in a room and listen to them. And I often feel. There was a movie years ago with Steve Martin as the the preacher in the sort of somewhere in the deep south, and he used to sort of lay his hands on people, and they would feel they were cured, and I just don't think life's that simple. I think people have to deconstruct things in their own ways, and I'm just healthily skeptical. I admire the brands that these people have built around themselves, but at the same time, I sit back and say, well, actually, I'm a great believer in everybody finding their own way and talking to a bunch of different people. And actually, some of the smartest people I've ever met have given me the answers without them even realizing it. I find talking to people that have been down in the dirty and done things and have made the same mistakes as you and then have come through that, or even haven't come through that, learning from those mistakes is far more. Has been far more influential on my life and career than I would say probably these life coaches that
change your life in a day.
Yeah, and also and even more so than that, you get the business coaches that come and speak to you and try to sell you these services. I think other than recruiters, I get hit up by a business coach as much on LinkedIn as I do recruiters or people trying to sell me outsourced IT services. And I sit back and I think, wow, there's a whole industry around this. Yet you delve into it, and hardly any of them have delivered anything. But you've done it, and don't get me wrong. If I want somebody to teach me how to swing a golf club, I want to know that they're swinging the golf club. They've swung a golf club themselves
in a championship, or held a trophy, or
I do believe that, and I know people will argue, and you compare that to football, and the likes of Wenger and Jose Mourinho weren't top players and became world-class coaches, but they still had a football pedigree. And I think that some of these life coaches, some of these business coaches, outside of the very, very top echelons, it doesn't seem to be that way.
Yeah, no, it was just funny we were having that conversation. I just thought it was worth sharing. So, to me, I don't even know what you're kind of calling yourself these days, but to me, you're one of the foremost digital and social and business minds in the UK, without a doubt. Also hugely entrepreneurial and spot an opportunity at 200 yards where everyone would spot it at 30. So what are you sort of terming yourself at these days?
Yeah,
and what are you up to?
Yeah, so I'm currently involved in two projects. I say projects, they're companies, startups. One which dominates sort of 90% of my time is Sport Whispers. So we have effectively taken the world of social and digital, mashed it into a bunch of algorithms to use these algorithms to drive content, sports content. So if you take the space of football, we scan the world's social messages for player transfers, for transfer stories. We then apply a series of checks against those to make sure that they're valid and that they to sort the fact from fiction. And then from that we use things like robo writing and autographics and auto video. So if a story breaks at 10 a.m. on a Thursday morning, within a matter of 15-20 minutes, our engine effectively can partially write a breaking story, provide the bio, the information, the statistics, then create a video and some graphics so that you can respond in the sports content market space very, very quickly. Wow. So effectively it's an AI-driven sports engagement platform, which is a lot of buzzwords there, but effectively we're using technology to get great content produced at breakneck speed with a whole bunch of insight that's never been seen before. And we started out by creating that content for our own platform, which was footballwhispers.com initially before moving into other sports. And then we realised that we were a platform, and we now provide content for some of the world's leading sports media organisations. So ranging from ESPN through to Sky Sports to Oath, which was formerly Yahoo Sport, amongst many others. And sort of carving out a space that's never really been seen before. And we do everything from predict player transfers to player values to predicted lineups for teams, which we power a bunch of different fantasy games. We have player performance, team performance elements, and it's all driven from our love of sport, technology, and our sort of heritage in content as well. And social is at the heart of it, because stories are breaking on Twitter. Fans are chatting on Facebook and Snapchat around what their opinions are on the game, players and stories. And all of these things sort of come together in one space. So that's project number one. I'm the CEO and co-founder of that organisation. We're currently at about 30 people spread across sunny Milton Keynes. It's not so sunny some days, Old Street, and also we have a development team in Canada as well. So sort of somewhat global, which is great. And then I'm also involved in a company called the Appness, which I'm a co-founder of. And you mentioned Olivia earlier. Olivia's now the MD of that company. So from our Klood days, and it's an organisation that's grown quite nicely and steadily without really any hard push. And it incubates app companies and web companies. So people come to us with an idea, and we have the tech team to build it. We have the business team to work out how to monetize these things, and hopefully, we sort of incubate these companies until they get to a stage where they can stand on their own 2 feet. And we've been involved in some really exciting startups that are now really scaling and going to yeah, I mean, we've been involved in one's called Sport Buddy, which is I can't really say Tinder for sports, but if you can imagine, you're trying to find somebody to hook up and play squash with outside of your normal friend network. So those guys, we've helped set them on the way. We're working one which I can't give too many details about, but it's going to revolutionise sort of content and the way in which we interact with high-end luxury goods, and that will be coming to a screen near you pretty soon. Also been involved in a bunch of a children's app startup called Do You Promise as well. So there's it's quite a few in there, and various different couple of different restaurant booking apps as well. So it's the ones that have actually got launched in Hong Kong, of all places. Yeah, so quite diverse on that side, but that was a company that grew out of a couple of people and has grown to be relatively successful over the last couple of years since we exited Klood.
Nice work. So just quickly as well, what I'm always interested in, hugely not jealous, envious of, is when someone takes their passion and what they're good at and kind of smashes it, right? But it's taken a while for you, right?
Yeah.
But you're working in Football Whispers, Sport Whispers because...
Yeah, because it combines a few things really. We had a software product.
Well, I'm thinking about you when you were younger too.
Oh yes. So when I was younger, my passion was football. Had hopes and dreams of becoming a professional footballer, and didn't quite make it. And then played non-league for a number of years.
You got there, you were serious. You were a professional, right?
Yeah. No, didn't make the professional. I played semi-pro. Yeah. So as a child, I played at Luton Schoolboys. At Luton Town when they were in the first division.
Brilliant.
And played for various different district and county teams before. So football was my passion and love, truly. And then in later life, sort of studied and played at the same time as well. So it was good.
Nice. And then obviously you went on. You were saying about the listening engine and. So the start of how we managed to marry my passion for sport and football with our sort of skills in technology came around. We had we built a software tool called Radar, and effectively it took millions and millions of social media messages, and we started to disseminate trends and patterns, and the machine would learn what those patterns were. So we would start to see that in the banking sector, we would trawl millions of posts and comments around HSBC, and the machine would start to learn to categorize all of those posts, and it would say, well, actually, everybody's talking negatively about HSBC, and it's usually around 20-minute call waiting time for their online banking. And so you could start to then take a million messages and give a piece of information to an organisation to help them improve their business.
We exited that business. It was only a small exit, not life changing, but when we were at that stage of moving on, one of the seed investors in that company said to me, "Vivion, have you ever thought about creating a football website? You know, you're into online businesses and you love football." And my first reaction was that absolutely no. I might as well dig a big hole in the garden and throw some cash into it and hope that a little tree grew and give me a return on the cash by putting notes on the leaves. But because it was a heavily saturated market space. But then actually I went on holiday almost immediately after that seed was sown, and I spent the whole 2 weeks sitting there thinking, no, we could do this. We could do something different. We found that online, fans were being shortchanged. There was a lot of fake news out there. There was a lot of regurgitated content. So one publication like The Sun would lead with a story, and within 25 minutes, the same story had been regurgitated or rehashed in 100 different ways, and fans were just reading the same thing. There was a lack of depth to it, and more often than not, it was just put out there, designed to serve you up an ad. So it was a poor experience. Fake news, clickbait, all of these things that we've heard about many times. And so we set about using our experience in big data to take millions and millions of data points to help eliminate the fake news and give you, the fans, the stories that really count, based on domain authority, on people that have real insight, and match, and using machine learning to match those stories that break for particular teams to particular people, and then pushing that to the front of the queue. And we found pretty quickly we had hundreds of thousands of users, which then turned into millions plus users, and we were onto something, and the fans wanted that. And so that's a long-winded way of saying it was somebody else sparked the thought process, and I thought, I'd love to have a go at solving this problem.
Yeah.
Not that we've solved it 100% yet, but we're well on our way.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So, just in terms of then the current digital landscape, and what's really fun is, the last few weeks I've had, Alison from Avocado Social, who's kind of got one point of view, which is, futuristic to a certain extent. Mark today, was part of this series. Mark Weir talking about a bit kind of here and now what it's like. But I think, what I really enjoyed when we ever caught up was your Minority Report stuff, right? Your brain's way over. So what are you thinking about, currently missed opportunities and also future? Where's your head at on that?
Where's my head at? So in terms of current, I think I don't think things have massively changed in the last few years in social, and that the rules haven't changed. I think everybody's still making the same mistakes and are amplifying them. I look at organisations, and I think that a lot of them see what another organisation has done, or another agency copies what another agency has done, and it all feels very contrived. And I'll sort of try and give some examples to illustrate my point. But I think that social media and social and using it as a business tool is effectively it's the means in which to shine a light on the side of your business, to show people, the real people behind the business, your values and your brands, and then people will ultimately buy from you. I think we have become we've been bombarded with so many messages per day now that actually we're switching off to 98% of them. And therefore, more so now than ever, I've got to have something interesting to say, and it's got to be really, truly reflective of my business. I've got to choose my time and my timing of releasing that message more than ever, because how do I stand out in a very, very crowded space? But perhaps more importantly, there needs to have integrity and honesty about it. If Nando's social media strategy was revolutionary at the beginning, but it was all about them being jokey, being original, and taking topical of current affairs and then pushing out relevancy to that, and then driving a lot of people to share that content. And where other organisations have tried to mimic that, they're just almost doing a poor job of it. And so I think I stand by the stuff that we spoke about a few years ago, where it pretty much is, am I putting stuff out at the right time to be heard? Is it a true reflective position on what I want that's honest. It doesn't look contrived, doesn't look crafted by an agency. It looks, it needs to be actually this is genuine. Genuine. That's the right word. And also, I think more so than ever now, the problem that people do is that they hear that Snapchat is the medium from which to communicate to, or actually Instagram's now where I should be, or I should put my money into Facebook and Twitter. And actually, those platforms they've worked out their niches now. So Twitter is the home for breaking news. Snapchat is the place where best friends go to congregate and chat and have almost private conversations. Facebook is where we share and view the stuff we love. And Google's where we go to search because it's indexed the internet. And what happens is a lot of organizations spread themselves very thinly across all of those platforms because they feel like they need to be part of each of them. When actually, for some brands, it's just pick one, do it very, very well, and work out, am I in the best friends conversation? Am I in the breaking news? Am I, in the sharing the stuff we love about life story? And then, very, very quickly, you can be successful. Then you match that with the genuine and the integrity piece, and you'll be fine. And, I see a lot of people going out there and hiring what I can only describe as social media experts. Well, the reality is the world's full of social media experts now. Anyone under the age of 20, if they're not an expert, then their parents didn't give them a phone or something. And so actually, it's back to those core values of, am I funny? Am I articulate? Can I write well? Can I come up with something creative? And I'm a great believer that it's all just TV in a different medium. You're connecting to an audience. So there's nothing. Currently there's nothing revolutionary that I would say is these are the areas in which you need to focus on. One of the big areas that I also, I think is the most nascent area and is going to be the place where social media is revolutionised and digital in general over the next few years is in the influencer networks. And you hear a lot of people talking about influencers, and they tend to be, actually there's this very attractive person on Instagram. If I give them my product gets seen by 100,000 people, and therefore I'm going to pay them. Yeah. I think the world's changing. I think the world is that through the advent of technology, and we've actually built some tech in the sports world where we can understand, okay, your mark, you run the Manchester United Twitter community, and you've got 1 million Twitter fans following you. I can now understand the value of those Twitter fans. So I could give you a piece of content, and I could help you monetize your audience by understanding what regions they're from, how long people are spending on my site after you pushing that piece of content out there, and also are they genuine people? Because there's lots of bots, there's lots of
there's been a bit of that, hasn't there?
Lots of rogue activity out there. There's everything from white URL fraud to clickbait, duping the user into thinking they're about to receive one piece of content and it's something completely different. So the whole influencer world will be tidied up and aggregated into a place where actually, if I want to talk to people that like fishing in Cumbria on Wednesdays, and there's a community for that, I'm going to be able to find them, and my business is going to be able to, in a razor sharp way, speak to those audiences in an integral way. And that really is you'll start to see a lot of startups and companies starting to scratch the surface, but then get really deep in the influencer space. And it's not just about whether or not Jay-Z is a social activator by wearing a cap on an Instagram post. It's about those people that over the last 5 years have built up a following of 100,000 people that are truly a tribe around something, and that tribe will help brands reach the right people.
And there's trust that goes along with that as well. So if something does get posted on there, they'll probably be kind of okay about it because. But having Jay-Z wear your merchandise is probably a good thing anyway, right?
No, definitely. Yeah.
But
my point is that's the perception of what a social influencer is now, and actually, social influence there's you can connect to millions, if not billions, of people by aggregating that next level of social influence. The guy that owns a blog, the lady that has a YouTube fashion channel, and it will all start to merge into by interest rather than by platform.
Yeah, one of the things that always happens to us, people come along, maybe they're launching a restaurant or a new thing or whatever it is, and then automatically, it's, we need a blogger night, you know, and they're like, our PR agency's sorting that out, and you're like, this is just, someone trolling Google or trolling Instagram going, well, they've got a big follower, or even worse, we know them anyway, we can get them along. Yeah. Whereas actually, what you're saying, right, I think it's actually a bunch of hard work to actually sit down and strategically look at, a long-term relationship with many, many, many micro-influencers rather than one.
You've absolutely hit the nail on the head. It's that many, many micro-influencers, and then inviting them into your network, and then letting them show you, that using the data to show you, okay, Mark, you may only have 10,000 people following your bowling community, but wow, they're so engaged, and they're, you every time you put something out to them, you guarantee they're spending 3 or 4 minutes on your content and really engaging with the brand that you're working with. Far more effective than the guy down the road that's just got 5 million generalists that may spend 2 seconds a time, and it's getting to that level of understanding, and how strong is the team really, that you've got behind, how strong the community.
But what for people listening, like, where do you start then? How do you? Because there's manual ways, there's also company ways. How do you find these influencers?
So we've done 2 things. As I alluded to earlier, we've built a sports network that's then being used into driving fans. So effectively, if I've got some content on Barcelona, I know that using our technology, I can get that piece of content out to the 1 million most engaged Barcelona fans in the world, and therefore I know that if the content's any good, then effectively I can connect it to the right people. Yeah. But the step before that, you use technology to tell you who's engaging, where they're located in the world, do they behave in all of the right practices? There's no clickbait, all these other elements. But the first bit is just hard work, and it's messaging people, trawling through many, doing lots of searches on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram, reaching out to the admins of those pages, and then we put them into the technology, and then the technology tells us, ultimately, is their audience worthwhile inviting into the platform?
Brilliant.
And so, is there are agencies, social influence agencies that are spawning all over the place at the moment, but I'm not entirely sure that's the answer. I don't want to do them a discredit because it's a nascent space. But it's like anything, if you want to speak to someone and you want to know that they're the right people to speak to, do you need somebody to go and ask that question, do that for you? I think companies can do that themselves. Yeah. To answer your question in a succinct way, the initial piece is hard work and find the people. Then you run tests and you say, okay, well, I pushed some content out to this particular influencer community. It worked really well. I'm going to push more content to them. Yeah. Actually, these 2, there was hardly any engagement and it's a waste of effort and resources. I'm going to scrub them off the list. And in our sports network, we must have gone through 6,000 global social influencers to get to a prime list of 200. So it's a small sample, but that might be the ratio you're looking at to get there.
Well, I think it's interesting, the thing that I think certainly in the food and drink industry, people don't have time to do is actually do the analysis. So if you think about all the brands that you work with in the food space, they're really under-resourced, certainly on the marketing side. And I really feel for them because actually so much of the work is in the listening, which we'll come on to. Yeah. But also doing that hard graft, doing the hard yards, keeping on top of all that, whilst you're still needing to do menus, Mother's Day posters, And I know it's a bit no excuses, you're in business, therefore you've just got to make it work. But I do really feel for the guys and girls out there doing it because they're probably, not even get a whole FTE or head count for one social media person. They're probably doing it as part of the other stuff that they're doing as well.
Yeah.
You know, it's tough. You know.
Well, both you and I have built and grown an agency from scratch, from 0 to 1 to 20 plus people and on and beyond. And so I don't want to do agencies a disservice, but one of the biggest failings that I saw, and food and drink, this was more prevalent than a lot of the other industries for all of the reasons you just outlined, is that people are like, well, I have this X amount of budget. That budget's usually way too tight, and they say, well, it's my roll of the dice in digital, and they give you the budget and they're expecting miracles, and if they don't see that immediate return, it's the first thing that they question. And if I was being truly sort of agnostic of the situation, not on the agency side or restaurant side, I'd be advising them to say, okay, well, take that and just employ 1 or 2 smart cookies and have a real go at it, and give them time to experiment and break things, and then over time you'll be able to see the return, because as you and I sat in on many meetings and pitches and businesses that we'd won where actually it was everything was under resourced and constrained, and nobody knows all of the answers yet, and so therefore they just need time to breathe. So I'm not really answering your question in the sense of how do I feel about these organisations that there's only half an FTE, other than the fact that it's just ludicrous. You wouldn't put half a chef in the kitchen, would you, to serve 50 people?
Yeah.
So why do the same? And it seems that there's just a different logic applied, and also the thing for me is that actually the food and drink industry is just it's the most social of all industries. The pub was the original social network where we met to talk about things. The rest. So for people to get it right and really invest in it, they're tapping into an endless supply of future customers. And I know a lot of organisations in that sector have been scared of the way in which social media can break their organisations with bad comments. But I just think it's the way of the world now. You're going to get exposed, whatever. Bad business will be a bad business, whether or not it's covered up by social media. And I think the real smart, progressive ones really invest in the right way.
Yeah, no, definitely. And then, just thinking about social listening as well, I know how passionate you were about that, not least because, your company was built on that originally. What's your tips for that? Because I think people, again, just aren't listening, and they're pushing out posts and they're not actually, being hungry enough out there.
My tips for that. So it depends. It depends what your objectives are. So if your objective is to purely just to win new business, so if you're using social listening to win new business, then probably if you're going to do enough work to identify, 20 new bookings for your restaurant. So it might take somebody a day a week to deliver that, because they've listened to people talking about where shall I go for my party, where shall I go for Mother's Day this weekend, and then using that information to try and convert them. That's quite a hard sales push on a one-to-one basis. And actually, my thought process has changed and said, well, actually, that's probably not the right strategy. And therefore, social listening for a lot of F&B type companies should really be around just listening out around the sentiment for their organisation, seeing whether they can spot trends. Is there a regular theme that actually people don't feel comfortable in our restaurants, or actually are people only talking about the offers of our restaurant? So is there like a price degradation going on here because the only social chatter about our company is that there's a 40% off voucher flying around? So I think every F&B company should be doing social listening from a brand protection point of view. What's being said? Can I then improve my business off the back of it? The the economics of driving new customers into your premises is very difficult, because you might drive ones and twos, and so I would say that social listening strategy at that level should be around just listening to the tone, what's being said about us out there.
Yeah.
And then also from a customer service perspective. But then you'll get us onto a whole new subject of how professional moaners have and complainers have developed over the last 6 to 7 years. And actually, I've seen some very, very clever technology arrive in the last 2 years where actually people can match profiles and see whether or not you're a guy that's, maybe complained at Prezzo, TGI Fridays and Nando's. And so you're just going around trying to get free stuff and people are almost getting blackballed into or blacklisted into this. So I think it's moved on a lot from there, if that makes sense.
Definitely. I mean, again, if you've got the names of that company, I can put it in the notes,
sure.
at the end of the podcast. So look out for that. The other thing I was thinking about was, just again, and you more as a consumer now, I suppose, but when you're on the social media channels and you see the food and drink operators putting their stuff up and, what do you, are you seeing trends? Do you think anyone's doing it really well right now? Or, is there anyone standing out for you?
Years ago, we used to constantly admire the likes of Nando's because they stood out for humorous reasons, and they tapped into a feeling that people were going onto social to escape for 5-10 minutes, and therefore it was this real bite-sized piece of content. I remember things I used to love when the Nando's in Manchester kept all the stores open for an extra 7 minutes and put it out on social media in honour of Alex Ferguson for Fergie time, and it was brilliant. And then when Luis Suarez, invited him into Nando's for some extra chicken. So they were just really responsive and they were on it, and they were an example of somebody that invested a lot of resources into doing that. And but if I'm being honest, whilst I don't look as closely at it as I used to, but since we sold the agency, I do see a lot of it because there's still a lot of them on my own news feeds, and I feel it's just all Me Too. It's probably the wrong words to use now, but it's the same. There's nothing different. The photos of dishes and plates. It's just the same thing over and over again. And
it's doing my absolute head in. That overhead shot of just the dish laid out, filter over it, and you're like, we need to come up with something new, don't we? Yeah,
and if you think about what decisions do you go through in the thought process of when you decide where you're going to eat or you're going to meet with friends and have drinks? With us, the thought process for us is, firstly, what type of food do we like, and do they make great food? So that's probably the primary thing. So the photos of the food's quite relevant. But then if
Prezzo's looks the same as Zizi looks the same as TG, you're just like,
how do you differentiate? But then the other things actually, how's the restaurant set out? What's the vibe like? I don't know about you, but I like going to places where there's a real buzz and a humdrum in the background, or there's a guy on a guitar on certain bars and restaurants, and there's the social side and how busy is it, and what's the crowd like that's there? I love busy places, and so for me, I don't want to go out and be in a stony silent place where so I don't think people are using social enough to tell the story of the atmosphere, and which is very difficult for these bigger brands because they have a brand page for across the piece, when the reality is even the Prezzo in Milton Keynes is very different from the Prezzo in, say, in central London. There's a different vibe about them, and I just think that companies in this sector need to think, okay, well, people go to a location, they go to a locality, tell them about that locality, update them with what's going on in there and what's the vibe like, and that's the bit that I don't think people have really mastered on social, and that they need to.
Yeah. I think. Just really interesting you're saying about the thought process, and I don't think enough marketers are thinking about the thought putting themselves in the customer's shoes and saying, if the first thing is, and it happens, right? Even if you go to a supermarket or you're walking about where there's loads of food options, you're thinking, what kind of thing do I want right now? Is it a soup, or is it Mexican, or is it this, or is it that? And if you start there, then you could have fun with that. Which is, you could be tempted, you feel like Mexican tonight, it's almost going back to that chicken tonight thing, and you could troll them almost in a positive way. And then almost you could have a flowchart, yes, no. Do you feel like Mexican? No. When next? And then something could happen that they could schedule you to hit them up again, or there's so many things that you could, because if you put that into Instagram stories and you did a poll and you said today or tomorrow, you could take that data and then you could hit them up, couldn't you?
Yeah, there's a bunch of,
I mean?
and I think, it's about, how do you get into that subconscious and say, because people, how many times is someone say, I really fancy Indian food tonight or Mexican, and it's and where would I go for that? And it's not purely based on the food; it's based on a whole number of things. I have not a theory, but a feeling that a lot of that is that if you look in the agency world, it's not that people aren't thinking that way. It's that they're very time pressured. So to some extent, digital marketing, web development, app development has become, in the minds of many, a commoditized product. So they're going out and they're making decisions purely on price. So there's a lot of pressure on the time of the creative team where they're saying, okay, well, you've got X number of hours to deliver this because these guys don't want to pay any more than X number of pounds. And so they're sitting there going, right, well, we just need to churn something out. This is kind of tried and tested. It's worked over here at this particular location. Let's cookie cutter it and move on.
Agencies do that, do they?
Well, yeah. I don't think, not through intention, but through the fact that the pressure is on margins and times, because and it feels like almost like a sweatbox just to churn stuff through. And organisations, they're going, well, our margins are really tight, so this is what we think we can, we can spend, and therefore no one's spending money on thinking time. Unless you're at the very, very top end of the strategic agency world. And that thinking time is the thing that I think is most undervalued in digital today. Everybody just thinks it's a commodity process, spend some money on Facebook, spend some money here, build a quick website, get through to it. When actually the truly great things that's built in the digital age is where you build something, you let humans interact with it, they tell you what they like, what they don't like, and then you iterate and build the next thing. And I think that part of the problem, what you described, of whether or not people are thinking about the whole thought process, is that actually they don't have enough time to think about it because the pressure on the economics of everything that is out there. And one of my areas that we try to push a lot for towards the end of before we sold the agency is that it's a reverse in Pareto's rule. So if I have £100 to spend on a digital project, the historical way of doing it is I probably would spend £95 on building my site or whatever, and then £5 on marketing it, or maybe there's a little bit of PR in there as well. And then you've built this wonderful looking site that is based on everybody's internal view of the way we should build it, and then nobody's there. You're talking to an empty room. And I think the real shift needs to be what's described as growth-driven design, where I spend £20 on getting something out there. We know it's nowhere near the finished article, and then I let humans test, iterate, and then I go and I spend another £20 on getting the site out there and marketing it. And so there's a more uneven distribution. And so what happens is by the time you've burnt your full £100, you've had users all over what you've built, interacting, feeding back, and you've let them determine the direction in which your digital presence should grow. But even now, I speak to many people such as yourself, and it's like we've got £100,000 for our digital strategy, and they're spending $95,000 building the platform, and then wondering why nobody's using it and thinking I've just wasted my money. And everybody's been pressured into building it. There's not a lot of thought process gone into it. So anyway, I digress. But
it makes perfect sense, and and it is just such a shame because I think the margins are really tight in food and drink, and it can be quite an ops-led business, and people don't really get digital. They want to maybe expect too much from what digital's going to do, but also I think the burden of the restaurant and food and pub industry, as well, is that actually there's an offline part to this that they can't, because if these went full e-commerce, not that that's going to happen right now, but if it went full e-commerce, at least then you could justify and you could measurably click and, but the hard thing for any, companies out there, restaurants, pubs, whatever, they need everything. So they actually need probably some brand work. They need marketing to get people in. They also need internal menus, tent cards, blackboards, T-shirt, all. Then they need digital, then they need social. And it's actually, a lot of people are in the lucky position that they've just been able to go fully online and not worry about all that other stuff. But their budgets are stretched so thin because they're dealing in offline and online in equal quantities. It's quite hard.
Yeah, I mean, the vast majority of them that I've come across are investing in this space to what they can afford rather than what they can need.
Yeah,
and that's sometimes a dangerous thing in life. In the sense, obviously, it's more dangerous to spend what you don't have. But you sometimes you and I have been involved in conversations with organisations and where we said, actually, if you're only going to spend this on that particular piece of work, you're better off not spending it at all. Because you're just throwing money away.
The classic one was someone came to us and I think they were wanting to raise their sales by £250,000 a year, something like this. And I think I said, so how much have you got for that? And it was like 3 or 4 grand, right? And I think I didn't lose it, but I was just a bit like, oh. So I think I just put it in a horse.
Yeah.
Just stick it on a horse.
Yeah.
You probably do better.
So, I drive into the casino this afternoon and we'll see what happens. Yeah, I know. Yeah, and also
it's so hard though. It is hard for the guys out there, but you feel for them. But yeah, I mean, if anyone could turn 3 grand into 250, we'd all be doing it, wouldn't we?
No, definitely. But also, I am disappointed in some of the big successful brands that are out there. I don't think they've stretched the boundaries to lead the way digitally. They're so caught up in just, as you say, being operationally led and continuing to deliver the revenues in a tried and tested way, that actually they could be at the forefront. You look at some of the big coffee shop brands out there. Digitally, they're fairly behind, and actually they're printing money. And if you look at some of the financial statements of these organisations, and they could stretch the boundaries. By them stretching the boundaries, others will see the art of the possible. Yeah. So I do think it's an industry that somewhat lags behind due to investment.
Oh, it definitely does. Does. I mean, if you look at, I think hotels are more ahead than we are. Some of the retail definitely, but then you go into media, and you look at Vice News or even The Guardian or things like that. They're doing wonderful jobs, but that's their game in a lot of ways. And then so one of the things I was thinking about was just the future, and that's what I always enjoy hearing about from you. So what are you thinking about where this is all going? So the AI, the AR, we're not even going to have phones anymore, that old Joey Tribbiani joke of, if you don't have a TV, what does the furniture point at? Yeah. Kind of thing. So, what's going to happen?
What's going to happen? So, okay. And I'll tell you the winning lottery numbers as well at the same time.
At least what's your
No, I'm joking. Everybody spoke about mobile first 5 years ago, and that's truly it's true. Yes, and that's truly here. And in terms of augmented reality and VR and all these things, where do I think it's going? I think that first and foremost, if you forget the technology and the technology just being an enabler of organising information, that actually more and more where it's going is that we've gone through a phase where we are bombarded with so much information because of technology that we can't possibly consume it. So in order for us to cope with that, our brains have just switched off from 98% of what's thrown at us every single day. And I think we spoke about the stats a few years ago where you could be exposed to up to 1,500 messages a day across email, social media platforms, and I say these are not messages from a friend going meet you at 10 a.m. This is messages from organisations and brands and ads and all these various different things. And so we're just becoming banner blind. So the economics of that mean that whereas before I used to have to reach 1 million people to get, let's say, 5,000 customers, I had an economic return. I used to be able to say, okay, I spend this amount of money reaching this audience, goes through my funnel, I can deliver this amount of customers. And those economic returns are just falling and falling and falling, that are making it less efficient for people to use those mediums, technology as mediums to drive business. So and because we're no longer paying attention to that stuff, I think the two big changes in the tech space is that marketing will become contextual and native. And by what that means is that I'll only look at the stuff I'm interested in. So if I'm going to, a sports site, I might buy sports-related products. Or if I'm reading an article on Lionel Messi, then I might buy a ticket to go and watch his next game or something. But the way in which that's pushed to me is subliminally in a contextual way. We're no longer, as from what I can see, we're no longer as humans, prepared to click banner ads and buy stuff, and let cookies follow us around to the same way that we once were.
So do you think then, fast forwarding, let's say, almost like Google Mail does brilliantly, it splits things out. You might see a time where it is, Facebook, sports, music, and then you start filtering in that way.
And that's exactly where I was going with the second point, is that I believe that that our lives will be filed in that way, and that I will have the place I go to for sports, the place with music, and it's happening now anyway. But the mode of a platform where I get everything is just cluttered now. So it's like we're creating separate rooms in the house, and we're going to go into that room when I'm ready to go into that room and consume that type of content or information. And so I see the evolution of deep specialism areas, and therefore the job for brands is just to coexist in those deep specialism areas rather than blanket stuff across the board to all and sundry. If that kind of makes sense.
It does. I think that's fascinating, because I think there is a bit of it where it's self-filing at the moment, because whatever you search for in Facebook and on the web, you get what you deserve in that way, that whatever you search for, that's kind of what's coming back to you in a lot of ways. But if you start just searching for wine or unicorns or whatever it is, and just do that over and over and over again, you will see that change. But it's them that's controlling it. Whereas I think I'd really like that Facebook split up like that, because I'd never be out the music section.
And I think,
sport,
and we're starting to do stuff in the embryonic stages of what I can only describe as Netflix for content. And I think this is where a lot of it's going. So if you can imagine, I go onto Netflix, and I trust Netflix to tell me that the 97% match of what it's put in front of me, I'm probably going to like what that is. So, I genuinely these days only watch things based on my friends telling me you have to absolutely watch this, or Netflix or another platform telling me this matches your preferences, and you kind of have got to the situation where they've understood you. I think that that content's going the same way. So if I'm a consumer of sports content or music content, it will start to understand that on a Monday I like post-match analysis. On a Wednesday it's all about transfer news. On a Saturday I just want to watch the goals and the highlights. So both contextually on a day basis and a subject basis, soon we're going to be able to put content in front of people that says, actually, this content is 97% accurate for you on a Monday afternoon, because I know this kind of, you like reading about this subject for this team on those days, and therefore we're going to be able to filter for people to deliver things in that way. So almost remove all of the clutter that's been posted around them before. There's certain elements where you think, well, how do we discover new things? We've had many chats around. We used to love many years ago going into the record store and just flicking through the
You worked at
LPs.
Outliers, right?
Yeah, I
We
worked
both
at
worked at
Outliers.
Outliers,
Yeah, my best ever.
It was best ever job.
Best ever. Student job. But you know, people used to spend hours discovering things that way and chatting to people. And so you know, how does can algorithms purely enlighten you to a whole new experience if you're just going after the same thing that you always like? But yeah, so I think that the Netflix for content piece is where things are going as well. So and all it boils down to is can I put stuff in front of people that I know they're going to like at a time they're going to like it, free of all of the clutter? Because what I believe a lot of technology has done, and we're at the dawn of all of this, is just basically found more ways in which to put stuff in front of people. And we're getting more and more tired of it. So the next technology revolution is, how do we stop people from getting tired of this stuff and self-sort for them?
Yeah, I think that sounds really exciting. And just on that subject then, do we think the three major ones are still going to be around? You know, Facebook, Instagram and Twitter?
So of the three, I think Twitter is reinventing itself as the place where people go and consume news first, and you see a lot of the major media publications in the world breaking stories there first, because it's a great way to search and find stuff. Do I think it's as prominent and relevant in people's everyday life as the other two that you mentioned? I don't know. I don't think so. From my own experiences and what we've been involved in. Though I think Facebook's going to be around. I think what Mark Zuckerberg's New Year's resolution of tidying up Facebook and bringing it back to the place where we go and share stuff that we love and connect with people that we like. I think that
unfollow the people that we don't.
Yeah, I think it will. I think it will sustain. The platform's so huge now that it is like Google and
2 billion monthly users.
Yeah, and in the sense that it's part of the fabric of our digital life. I don't know whether they'll have to reinvent certain things to make sure it becomes relevant in our life, but it's the same challenge that you see for Facebook that everybody was saying 5 years ago, that the younger generation are finding other places to talk and cohabit and share messages. So yeah, but do I think there's another disruptor along the way? The one thing I've learned from being in technology for the past 15 or so years is that these things come out of left field. But what I do know is that they don't come out of left field and become overnight sensations. They tend to percolate for 3 or 4 years before they become into the subconscious of the early adopters, and then they start to gather momentum. So I don't see one tomorrow disrupting those platforms massively, but maybe over time. But I do think that, as I go back to earlier, that I think that these niche specialism platforms will evolve and grow. And people have tried to create social media for sports or social media for the movies, platforms. So, but they've kind of failed and crashed and burned. I think maybe either Facebook or Instagram or will start creating specialist niches from which you to go down.
An Instagram food feed would be pretty cool, wouldn't it? And then, just in terms of new stuff, so there's Vero on the horizon, plus all the other channels, Medium and What do you think about all those kind of outliers, newbies?
Yeah, I mean, Medium. Been around for a while. Medium was one of the ones that I thought would really take over.
It was Branch as well, wasn't it? You introduced me to that.
However many years ago when we first started looking at those sort of, where are we now? Yeah, so probably when it first came around, was it 5-6 years? Yeah, 5-6 years ago. I forget the exact timings. I thought this was the one. It made sense to me. You were instead of giving a voice to the irrational, you'd almost the premise that actually the highest value content would flow to the top, and but it doesn't seem to have captured the masses in the same way that others had. So I was quite surprised by that. We've tested some of these other platforms, but they're very, very difficult to get a true understanding of how successful they're going to be until there's so many users on them that are people sticking around and staying, and not a lot of people disclose the true durability of those platforms. I'd love to be able to say this is the one. Snapchat's reinventing itself as the place where you sort of converse with your best friends. So I've got everyone I know on Facebook. LinkedIn is everyone I know and wants to know me, and people I'll probably never ever meet. Whereas Snapchat's really just concentrating on the people I just really want to talk to on a regular basis. I think there's a space for all of them, but as I say, for those particular reasons, they're no longer these all and sundry social media platforms where I do everything on. I think everybody dips into each of them, in and out.
Do you think there's one that's underused? Is there any of them that you think, I think more people should use that?
Ironically, for somebody that built one of the early stage social media digital agencies when people didn't even know whether social media was the right thing to promote a business on, I no longer can advocate any of them being underused. I think that they're probably overused. If you think about it, if I'm a brand on Facebook or Twitter or anywhere really, or LinkedIn, after all, if I see the same message over and over again, it's just we've all got that friend that occasionally repeats themselves and says the same thing. It's like, are you going on about that again? And I feel that's what a lot of organisations are doing, and it's overused because someone's told them that they've quadrupled their business on this particular social platform, so they all run to it like lemmings and then hammer it until there is no return. And so that's a long-winded way of saying I think less use is better. And we should be spending more time away from our platforms and phones and just enjoying things.
Well, just on that point, I've just installed an app called Moment.
Yep.
And it tells you what your screen time is on your phone.
Yeah.
It's an absolute disgrace.
Yeah.
It's like 7-8 hours a day. And so it's actually woke me up. So I heard it on Jeff Lloyd's podcast, Adrift, he does, and he talked about it. I thought, I'm going to download that. So it's been...
I'll check it out. Last year, so 2017 New Year's resolution was I turned off all notifications from my phone. And I have times in the day when I'm going to deal with my text messages, deal with my emails, deal with my and so I do it, and the people are going, I've texted you, why have you not responded to me? And because it's almost like people see an email or a text as an informal contract that I shall respond as soon as you get that notification. And I just found myself constantly, as soon as the phone buzzed, or right, okay, who do I need to respond to? And it just wasn't good for the soul. So I took back control, notifications off, and I go and I look at it when I'm ready to. And actually, it's made a big difference.
Well, it's really funny, back when I was at lastminute.com, I had an amazing boss called Matt Hart. He's now over at Hollywood Bowl now, and he just said, look, just do your emails like 8 till 9, 9 till 10 or whatever in the morning, then do your work, have a wee check in at 12 or 1, and then do them at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And, it's okay when you're in a company and someone can come and get you. It's not so easy when you're running an agency.
Yes.
Sometimes there's fire. So, but it was a really good thing. But funnily enough, I've just taken a week off in Scotland, and before I went, I turned off all my notifications.
Yeah. And
that's really helped. But the last thing on that subject, just from me as well, was a really good one. And it's just for people to think about their productivity. I've got a mate, Scott, down in Brighton, and he was at a course, one of these kind of efficiency courses, and it said every email you look at on average takes up 7 minutes of your time.
Wow.
So if you think about that, and and basically every time you dip into one, 7 minutes. So if you get, do the maths and stuff, but 100, 200, 300 emails a day, even if it's not actionable by you, just on average, 7 minutes, everyone. And
you think there's this culture of where everybody, the further up the food chain you go, everybody wants to CC you in on these things.
Oh yeah.
And particularly people like yourself, who's the principal of your organisation, even if you're not involved, people want you to be involved. So you think how many 7 minutes you're burning on a daily basis. But it's crazy, and I think we're just becoming very adept to sort of filtering stuff very quickly. But another thing I did was I changed my email for the first time in 8 years, I think it was, my primary email for people to contact me about 9 months ago, and I felt like I was cleansed. Wow. So the all of the spammy emails, all of the people that would say, I'm just checking in to see whether you have any recruitment needs, or what can I sell to you today, Vivion, or all of these mailing lists that I appeared to sort of fall into, and just overnight eradicated about 80% of my inbox. And it felt good, but it's amazing. Again? It's starting again, and I think that could be the next big tech way of sorting people's lives. I'm trying to remember the email company that was formed out of IDEO and then was purchased by the guys at Dropbox. But I thought they were on to the beginnings of that, and then it just kind of dissipated over time post their purchase. But
nightmare. Well, I'm just thinking about your time as well. You're a busy man. But just one last thing before you go. I was just going to talk about voice. Yeah. Have you got any sort of advice for people in terms of voice, where to start, how to go about it, specifically food and drink? What are you thinking on that?
What do you mean specifically?
Sort of voice strategy, so how would you get your information into, like, Alexa or Echo, or, integrating, for food and drink brands, how could they start a voice strategy? Where would they even start with that?
Yeah, where would they start? I'd love one of them to be on the end of my Amazon Alexa and say, Alexa, deliver the Nando's in the next 15 minutes, or and Deliveroo will be there with the box. I think that's the only real use case in that space, or connecting your reservation systems, which I think it's getting there. It's getting there, and but that's not, just be honest, Amazon and Google and they're doing the heavy lifting in that, because they ultimately want to monetize that. But it's just based on delivery and reservations, and nothing too more complex than that. Although we could end up with situations like we've got now with particularly the youngest one in my household. He's pretty good at telling Alexa to deliver something from Amazon Prime, and packages turning up on the doorstep, which could result in my other children resulting in unwanted pizzas arriving on the front door. So there's probably a few security and check and
that's true.
and issues to get there. But there was something the other. In fact, I ended up with two extra the Echo Dots in my Prime basket that hadn't been approved for dispatch. But so it was quite funny. But that was from my kids just playing around with it. In fact, we've had to turn them off in our house, because everybody is competing over what music gets played. And all of a sudden you're partway through for a song, and one of the kids is coming in and telling it to change it to something else. And,
Olimers or Little Mix, that's what I get. It's just like, Jesus.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough.
But I did on the whole voice thing. It's one of these things that seems great, and it's brilliant from the point of view of where the potential for it going. But I find today it quite unsatisfactory. Bar telling it to play me a playlist, or tell me what the weather's going to be today, or is my train on time. It really isn't impacting my life to the way that I thought it would do. And so maybe the food and drink industry should be looking at ways in which to make it really easy for stuff to be sent to the house, or for reservations to be made. Yeah.
No, I think it could be quick. But it was even simple things. I was thinking, like, maybe you could have, we talked about Nando's a lot, but you could put on a Nando's grime playlist as you're having your or something. You could connect. But you're right. I mean, apart from music, the odd instruction, and that's why I think Google Home's kicking Amazon's butt a little bit, in that Google just seems, funnily enough, seems to have more information, because there's so many times we ask it things, and Alexa's like, I don't know.
Well, you think that the Google's aim from day dot, and it hasn't changed ever, and I doubt it ever will, is to index the world's information. So the mere fact that it's indexing the world's information means that its device in your home is going to deliver a better end result. And the one point I would say is for organizations, if they're thinking about their voice strategy, on one side you've got the fact that Google's indexing means that people are more likely to get the right answer from their devices. But looking at the device coverage, more and more people have the Amazon products in their house at the moment, particularly in the UK. Not quite so sure on other markets, and therefore you're battling coverage on information versus physical coverage on devices being in houses, and therefore that's probably the first decision people need to make, is where am I going to start to invest my time in which platform?
It's a bit for the older people, VHS Betamax, isn't it? But it's interesting that just kind of wrapping things up a bit, because I know you'll need to head off, but there's an amazing video on YouTube, and I'm sure we've watched it together, which is called Epic 2015, and it predicts the future, like way back. I mean, this was like 2004, 2005, and Facebook wasn't even around. So it talks about Friendster and all these things, so it goes through that. Anyway, it actually predicts that Google and Amazon get together and kind of just take over business in general. So it's called Google's On. And then basically it displaces Microsoft. The New York Times becomes like a high-class pamphlet for the rich that goes through their doors. So we might see that, that one of them might join up with the other, and then they would have the perfect, index in the world's information from the Earth's most customer-centric company. Very well. You think it could be extremely dangerous though. The one place where everything's indexed with the people the marketplace that owns the supply of all the products. Ultimately, how would other businesses coexist there? You have a big challenge there. But you can't but admire those organisations. I was recently in Seattle and was just amazed with the number of the Amazon Fresh trucks that were just driving around and promising to get people's food to within 2 hours of them placing the order. And you just think, wow, what does that truly, in places like this, what does it truly mean for the likes of Walmart? Or if that happens here in the UK, the Tesco's and Ocado and the likes, how does that, how's that going to work out? And so it might democratize a lot of food supply, and we'll see. It might even drive prices down. We don't know, but it's a very, very interesting space, and one which I'm more of just a partial observer in now. And enjoying it too, it looks like.
Yes, indeed, yes.
Good. Well, listen, thanks so much for coming in today.
Thank you for having me.
It's been far, far too long, so I'm sure we'll grab some burgers at a place of your choice soon.
Indeed.
And just thanks again for all the thoughts and advice, and we'll get this up for everyone to listen to and share in your ideas.
Thanks for having me. Hopefully didn't waffle too much, and there's some nuggets of insight in there.
Brilliant. Thanks, man. So what did you think of that? Incredible information, foresight and insight from Vivion Cox there. Really exciting to hear his thoughts on what the future might hold, and something I'm certainly going to do after speaking to him is sit down and try and figure out how I can engineer some of that thinking for food and drink and for our clients. I hope that you can do the same. Also, I absolutely love a story where someone has a passion in life, like Vivion with football, but also they have a talent in life too, like the digital and the business, and smashing that together. And here you go, he's doing what he's always dreamed of. So hopefully some inspiration for people as well if you're in the job that you don't want to be in. And you can start to think about what you love, what you're good at, and how you can bring those two things together. I'll leave it there for this week. I hope you enjoyed the show. Also, please look at the podcast notes. There'll be lots of information in there about what Vivion was talking about. And lastly, please do tell your friends, subscribe, rate and review, and hopefully I'll speak to you again next week. Thank you.